it's easy to see that Africa is probably the best continent to do this kind of business.
Welcome back to SiGMA TV. Today we'll be discussing the gaming affiliation industry across the African regions in 2020. Well, joining me to discuss this and more, we have Charles Herisson, CEO of BetAdvisors, and Alessandro Pizzolotto, CEO of Stm Gaming. So Charles, Alessandro, it's great to have you both here with me today.
Hi, Jessica. Nice to be here.
Hi, Jessica. Nice to invite us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Alessandro, I'd love to start with you and just start with a little bit of context. So how have different regions across Africa, how have they really evolved their affiliation approach in 2020?
Well, I would say that the affiliation was starting already before COVID. Obviously, after COVID now, a lot of companies are looking into acquiring customers through affiliate. Before it was more of, shop-based kind of place where if you want to be successful, you had to have shops. Now, obviously, the big company and also the small company are going towards the online. And for that reason, they've been looking into affiliation. And I've seen some of my friends, Scandinavian friends living in Malta, moving into those areas of the world. And I see that the interest is picking up a lot.
So it seems like it's been a very strong environment for the affiliation market to really boom in Africa. Charles, is there anything you want to add from your perspective of the affiliation space in 2020 across different regions?
So I think that the affiliation above all in Africa is going to grow. Still, we are in the early stage, but we are going to launch several activities there. Because we found some very interesting affiliate opportunity. Obviously, Africa is a big market, so we have different approach in different area. And one of the most interesting area in this moment for us is Tanzania. We are looking that market very interesting. I think that Alessandro gave a brief introduction that is quite good. So nothing to add too much at this point.
And Charles, we've noticed this change in paradigm. 2020 has been a challenging year for some. It's also held some opportunities, especially for the online space in gaming. When we look at how this impact will have on the industry, are you expecting smaller or larger gaming companies to really hold more resilience during this shift that we've seen?
Yes, I expect that small company will get a lot of problems. So as we have seen already, many companies are going to close in these periods. Above all in region like Africa, we got some company that close it. But this is at the same time a good opportunity for big company to make acquisition. Merging and acquisition in this period is quite interesting. And I think that the big company will get some kind of advantage about this price that we are living.
And Alessandro, I'd love to hear your thoughts as well, because you've mentioned that companies in regions in Africa have had shops and they've had to make this move online. So when it comes to smaller or larger businesses being more agile, what's your thoughts?
Well, I believe that in Africa specifically, the problem is across the board. It depends on the strategy that was put in place before COVID. And a lot of companies didn't manage to react properly yet. So independently, if they were small or big, if you don't react to a pandemic like this in a certain way, and if your cash flow is not strong enough, you're going to risk, of course, the smaller company where their budget was probably not ready to go live, to go online, and to sustain a strong marketing campaign. With the problem that came in and with the missing revenue from the retail side, they are even more in trouble at this stage. So yeah, obviously we've seen several companies closing down. We have a couple of partners that didn't manage to weather through the storm. But I would say that in Africa specifically, we have seen a couple of big companies as well having trouble because their strategy was 90% plus retail, which, in January was a fantastic idea. Now in July, it's probably now, it's easy now to say that probably was not a good idea, but, at the moment, is not really a good idea in places like Uganda, where the shops today is still closed, or in place like Rwanda, where there is not even an online regulation and the shops are still closed. So the sites that pay taxes and as a license can only work retail, and the retails are not open because obviously the COVID is still going pretty strong, unfortunately, in Africa. So I think that has been across the board, but yeah, the smaller company obviously has less cash flow to weather this kind of problem.
And you've mentioned regions there like Uganda and also like Tanzania. So Charles, I'd like to turn to you now, but I'd like to get both of your perspectives. There's also regions like Nigeria, which have actually made a bold move to go from land-based to online. Do we think this kind of industry disruption will actually be retained? It'll be maintained, this paradigm shift, or do you think it will return to how things were earlier this year?
I think that on the long period, this COVID will give a lot of advantage to the full industry, because we are looking at a lot of change in a very short time, and this is very important and very good, I think, for these companies. And at this point, for example, in Nigeria, where you got a lot of shops, they got a lot of problems, and one strategy that could help this company is to try to convert customers from land-based to online. And for example, with BetAdvisors, we are now speaking with some company that wants to realize this, and we are giving to them some kind of coupons for BetAdvisors, that they can offer these coupons inside their shops to people that wants to go online. And this is a nice way to give a new reason to go online, because giving a coupon of tips to service or any kind of info product can move the customer from land-based to online, and this is also a very important way to give a bigger profitability for the customer, and to give the customer the opportunity to have always a direct contact with the brand. So I think that a lot of bookmakers will try to get this kind of new approach online, and this is going very fast in this period. So this is a very interesting opportunity for all the companies that offer a kind of info product, trying to push this B2B product. But at the same time, there is a lot of opportunity even for esports, because we have seen the esports growing a lot during this period. And I think that nobody will create a business model just based on sports, but they will try to add more service. So we will see even these bookmakers getting a new kind of approach with multi-channel and even with multi-product.
And Alessandro, I'd love to hear your thoughts as well on the same question.
Yeah, I think the question is really interesting, and I think that we're going to see the outcome in probably 18 months or something like that. From what I've seen and from what we as B2Bet and STM have seen, is just that customers are ready, operator in Africa, specifically Nigeria and Kenya, which are the two biggest market for us, and the two biggest market in Africa overall. There are already operators that wanted to go online before COVID, because obviously running shops has its own set of challenges and it's extremely expensive. Okay, so a lot of operators were already trying to go online, but you know better than us, then going online is not a process that you start in the morning and by evening is done. It's actually extremely complicated, and you need to acquire know-how. I believe that during COVID, a lot of these operators, especially the one that already had the team in place, managed to acquire more know-how on what works and what doesn't work. And the process of converting went much, much more rapidly. We have a specific tool on our retail software where it allows you to go in the shop and place a bet as a user. So if you're already registered, you can place a bet as a user. And when you go home, you can find your bet on your phone or your account, and you can keep track of it. Before, it wasn't really used. Now, obviously, we see shops making an effort to getting customer to become online customers. So we see there's a collective effort from all the parties involved to make sure that this switch is happening. And most likely the reason is also that the shops are closed. So the shop's owner trying to get hold of their customer and trying to make them bet somehow. But we are really seeing the number going towards the online. And I think that the more the situation will endure, the more the switch will be prominent. And I think that in 12 to 18 months, we're going to see really where we are. But if we follow what happened in Europe in the last 10 years, I mean, we're Italian. We were shop-based until 10 years ago. And I mean, Charles knows, I mean, we've been in this business for long enough. And the shops today are a small part of the total turnover generated in Italy. So, and Italy is an example. I can make so many other that they are based in Europe, and they're, I don't want to say copy, but they're following an example that actually worked. So if something worked, you try to replicate it. And I think that Africa is replicating that, specifically Nigeria. I mean, Nigeria is shifting quite quickly from retail to online.
And you've made a very interesting point there, because both of you are based in Europe and you're both looking at Africa as an interesting market for the gaming sphere. So Alessandro, I'll start with you. Why is Africa such an exciting market for you? You've mentioned there the fact that it is maybe a few steps behind its European counterparts. Is that one of the main appeals for you?
Well, I mean, first of all, the population number. I mean, we're talking over 1 billion people. Most of them are English speaking, so are easily targeted by the same kind of what we learn in Europe can be reproduced there. Second of all, the demographic. I mean, the average age is really low compared to Europe, and the potential of growth. I mean, if you look at the GDP in Europe, it's pretty much flat, and it's been flat forever. If you look at the GDP there and what potentially can come up in the next 10 years, it's easy to see that Africa is probably the best continent to do this kind of business, because every region, every country, one by one, is becoming regulated. The stability level is increasing. I mean, most people think that Africa is unstable, which is not really true. Yes, there are still some parts where there are local issues, but overall, compared to 10 years ago, the situation is so much better, and it will keep getting better, because it's in everyone's interest to have, a place like that to keep growing the way it's growing. So I believe that across Africa, there has been a lot of opportunity, and there will be even more opportunity because of the number of people, the demographic, and the stability, and the legislation, and the language they've been speaking. I mean, it's either French or mostly English, and then French on the west area. Then, somewhere like Angola, there is Portuguese, but they're very small places. So common language there is not difficult to enter. It's not difficult to enter for us.
And thank you so much for summarising that. Charles, I'd like to ask you the same question. I know Alessandro made some fantastic points there. Is it the exact same for you when it comes to the benefits and the appeal of looking at Africa as an investment opportunity and a place to do business?
Yeah. Alessandro was right. Demographic, population. I would say even some change in internet penetration. And at the same time, what is very important is that there is a huge opportunity for medium-sized operators that is not so easy to find in saturated market like West Europe, for example. So we got an amazing experience, good know-how working in West Europe and, let's say, westward, generally speaking, but it's time to go in Africa, because that is by far the best market to be in now.
And it's easy also, sorry if I interrupt you, it's also easy for companies that are already present. Like you were saying before, company that's already had a strong, foothold in Europe, is easy to open a subsidiary there and start discovering. I know some big group here in Malta that is actually entering the market, and I believe that we will see more and more of those, because they will need to find other places where they can keep generating certain amount of revenue, when in Europe we have places where the regulation is becoming tighter and tighter and tighter, and it's always every day becomes more difficult to operate in a reasonable way. So obviously they will need to find, those big groups will need to find areas in the world where they can operate. And Africa becoming legal or having a strong legislation around the different states will help. And I believe some of those companies at some point will see the potential and will jump in.
Well, it's certainly such an exciting time. Alessandro, Charles, thank you so much for joining me through our discussion today. It was an absolute pleasure hearing your insights. We look forward to seeing you at future events as well. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, Jessica.
See you
soon.
Ciao. Thank you. Well, that's all from us here. We'd love to hear how you found this segment, so share your thoughts with us in the comments below.